right,
welcome.
Welcome back.
No, welcome. I was going to say it.
No, you welcome.
You're welcome.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay.
Okay, welcome back to High Tales with your favorite lit sisters. I'm
Nicole.
Marissa.
I
I'm
fucked it
Marissa.
up. I'm Nicole. I'm Nicole.
I'm Marissa.
I'm Nicole.
Oh, and I'm Marissa. Okay, anyway, we are talking about Iron Flame today.
First episode of Iron Flame.
We just finished up Fourth Wing, which is the first book of this series.
Yeah.
After this first part, I actually like this first part of the book better than the first part of the last book.
Yeah.
I'm more in. Well,
I mean,
of course.
a fantasy series, right? Which I think this is a 5-book. It will be a 5-book series. The first book paints the world, draws you in. The second book is where things start to develop.
Yeah.
Which I think is very true. I will say I think the first book did more than just show me the world. It was a good first book.
Yeah.
And I hope at the end of a 5-book series, I'm like, that was my least favorite because it was really good.
The funny thing is, this is the start of the second year of her at this college.
Yeah.
And as she's going through the motions and everybody's seeing the first years come, I'm like, oh, these little kids have no idea.
Right.
I'm like all righteous with her. Like, this is the parapet is no big deal.
I think
Are
it's
you kidding
Riddick's
me?
that's the most righteous.
Yeah.
Of course. But where we start,
Brennan is alive.
Brennan's alive.
So Brennan is Violet's older brother,
Right.
who supposedly died 6 years ago. He is not only alive, he is leading along with Xaden, her maybe boyfriend, but not right now.
Situationship, apparently.
Yes. They are a situationship because he lied about her brother being alive.
That's one of many.
One of many lies. Also that he's
Now,
part of a rebellion.
Again, I'm going to take
that
Xaden's,
there is a rebellion.
I'm going to take Xaden's side a little bit and say it's not a lie, it's an omission, which is not the same as a lie.
I would say
Deceitful, yes.
if anybody is going to go that far with me emotionally and physically, you better not have a big ass lie like that. I better not be part of the second family.
It's not a lie.
She was part of the cover story and she didn't know.
I mean, no. No.
So don't. I think anybody who has a cover story just shouldn't have sex.
Ever.
Marissa
will shame you.
It's not shame. It's just.
I'm taking Xaden's side.
Don't give me all of you unless you want.
Listen, Linda, listen. I'm going to give you Iron Flame.
Okay.
To get back on Xaden's side because
I'm
you're
on
wrong.
Xaden's
You're
side.
wrong. You're wrong.
I'm
and
fine.
you don't necessarily know you're wrong. And I'm here with you for your journey. But it's not a lie.
I am just
We're going to
saying
talk about it.
She has a right to be angry and to say, I'm not doing anything physically with you because I can't trust the words that are coming out of your mouth.
She has the right to be a brat. You're right. And not get good sex in the meantime. That's totally within her rights.
She's not in the mood because she's with a liar.
She's in the mood.
Okay. Anyway, as we move forward,
yeah,
there is this rebellion.
Yes.
Which they are calling a rebellion, not a revolt.
Revolution.
Right? They're calling it a revolution, not a rebellion.
Right.
So she's like, oh, this is organized. This is bigger.
Yeah.
And this is this whole real world that she fell into, finding out that Venin and Wyvern are real.
Right.
Which she thought that they were just fables and nobody inside the confines of her previous world.
Right.
No.
Right.
Or if they do,
they don't even have evidence of the fables.
No.
So at this point, it's like spoken history.
And nobody's speaking.
Right. Right.
So this assembly of leaders
of
this revolution includes her brother. And she even comments like, oh, look at you with your lofty lieutenant journal or colonel or whatever.
Yeah, changed his name too. He had to change his last name.
Well, of course.
Lieutenant Colonel Azri? Azri? Azri?
I don't know.
You listen to it.
It's close enough that it works. I'm not
We're going to
as
say this
angry
every
about it.
time Marissa doesn't know how to pronounce something.
Yes, you're gonna shame me in front of
Yeah,
everyone
that's exactly what I
and
was
call
doing.
out that I should know.
I'm just saying you should know.
Anyway, so Xaden, they're like in the top handful of people in this revolution.
Yeah.
And so they are leading this revolution.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, they're in, what is it, Arisha?
yeah, Arisha.
Arisha, which Xaden is technically king, whoever, top honcho, Mayor
Duke.
Xaden,
Duke Xaden.
Duke, Count, I don't know.
So
But it's his,
Xaden.
like, house that they're in. Yeah.
Yeah. And they are talking back and forth and she's just in the hallway listening into this strategic meeting. And actually at one point somebody's like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be listening to this." And Zayden's like, "Who cares? I would have told her anything anyway. Get over it.
Well,
She's here."
Xaden, like, refers to them in the hallway. Like, no
Yeah.
one else noticed, and he said, I forget what he said, but he talked about and pointed to her.
Yeah. But we find out there's this Viscount Takeris, and he has a skilled person called a luminary. And this is the person that can make their weapons that can fight Wyvern and Venom.
I don't think it's a person.
I thought it was a person.
No.
I assumed it was like a person that has this power and it's very rare. I might. You've read more. You tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't. No, what I'm thinking in my mind is if it was a person, that changes everything. So then I'm thinking about all the references of the luminary and stuff like that. I think it's just a forge.
Okay. So evidently they can't build this forge.
Whatever it does, it magnifies the dragon fire they need.
Okay.
To the heat that they need it at. So it's like it's the in between man or thing. Noun.
So anyway,
it's the in between noun that gets them.
The Viscount has it. We want it. He offered it last year, and Xaden was not impressed with the terms and said no.
Yeah.
And we're alluding to something. I believe
he said he told him he can fuck right off with that offer.
Yes. So we're assuming it's something more personal. I actually went straight to he wants Xaden to marry somebody.
Yeah.
I thought. So Brennan just keeps saying we're looking for a diplomatic solution.
Yes.
And everything in the rebellion is riding on them. Their whole strategy depends on them being able to build weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. They need these weapons to fight off the Venom. And that's why they keep attacking the outposts, which are powering the wards. You know?
And we find out during this meeting, one of the other top guys in this meeting says, we got about a year left. And she's like, a year is all we have. And we have this whole being of people who don't even know this is happening.
Are in the dark.
Yeah. Oh, once they like find out Violet is listening in the hallway, Xaden was just kind of like, she's worth a dozen of any men, and it's not just because of her signet.
A dozen of him.
A dozen of me as the leader of this rebellion.
Yep.
And he said it's not just because she's got so much power and she has 2 dragons. It's because her mind is so hot.
That's exactly what he said.
He did. He basically said that. That I was like, oh, it reminds me of in Jane Eyre. This is going to be such a reference that you're going to hate. But in Jane Eyre, he's like,
no.
at the, like, after she's leaving him, he's like, I could keep you here if I wanted to. Like, I'm a big, strong man. But he's like, it's your soul I want. It's like, oh, it's like he wants her brain.
It's your soul I want. All right, they're going to leave. Basically, the assembly is like some people think, I think Xaden and Violet, they refer to 2 people, should stay, and everyone else should go back. And some people think that they have to go back to Basgiath. But they could die. It could be executed for that. So Xaden basically is like, thanks for your suggestion. That's all it is, assembly. We're going to make our own decision. Tells Violet to stay and talk to her brother, You don't know
Mhm.
the next time you're going to see him. We'll wait for you on the flight field and we're going to all make this decision together. Um, so they're sitting with each other, and the only time Brendan and her have really talked that we've seen is that like quick breakfast, right? Where they were basically getting to know each other. I mean, they haven't seen each other. She was what, 12?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
A lot.
it's been a
A
minute.
lot has changed
Yeah.
from 12 to 20 something.
Or
Your
no,
whole
14. I have it right here.
Oh,
She was 14. He's like, "You look so different." She's like, "Well, I was 14 and now I'm 21."
yeah.
So, a lot of stuff happens. And I Violet initially starts with a lot of questions like, "How are you alive? What are you doing here? Why didn't you come home?" When he puts his hands up and is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, so many questions," she notices a rune shaped scar on his palm. Because we still don't really know how Brennan is truly, like,
Alive.
actually alive,
Yeah.
right? So we know runes do different things. We don't know a lot about him yet. So I just want to point that out. Um, Tairn, like, she says she knows about the guy who was the siphon who brought him back.
No. Yeah.
Tarn in her head is like, we will no longer speak of the one who came before. He doesn't say his name. He just says the one who came before.
I actually thought that was alluding to he was like I picked wrong.
It could be.
I thought it was something like
It could be. It could also be. They doesn't say he died. Tarn doesn't say it, and Brennan also says that. But Brennan says that Nyolan didn't fail, but it cost him everything. Brennan also, he says he failed, right? We're going to learn a lot more about the Venin as we read this book as well, but we do know that they make a conscious choice to take power from the land, right? And it turns. So part of me wonders, did he take power to save Brennan? And that
yeah.
paired with the rune shaped scar. I don't know. Violet just goes through. So the fables are true. Venin have depleted the barons and are now going city to city to take power from the land. And Brennan's like, yes. I also love that in this conversation, Brennan's telling her what they know, and Violet corrects them about the wyvern and said they're not hatched, they're made. Because he's like, we still don't know where they're hatching them. And he's like, no, I mean hatched. She's like, no, they're made. Don't you remember from the stories? And he was like, you remembered that from Dad's stories? And she's like, yeah, I
I
pay
have the
attention.
book. I
I
kept the
have the
book.
book. um,
Which it's crazy that the leader of the rebellion fighting these creatures knows so little.
right.
So it's like this is even more why they need Violet because of her brain, but also why they need access to Basgiath.
Well, it is making you understand that there might have been more to Violet accidental, like her mom forcing her to be in the writer's quadrant than we know. Because they quite obviously need the scribe brain with the
Brawn.
fearlessness and the writing ability, right? And the power that comes with being a writer. So they talk about the most recent attacks. One is Zola, which is where Cliffsbane is. This is the first time we hear about Bane, which is the Griffin Rider Academy in the other province. So basically the same as Basgiath, but for Griffin Riders. Um, Brennan also confirms that he doesn't agree with the assembly member that said a year. He thinks they have 6 months.
Eee.
Now that they have wyverns in the mix, he's like, I honestly think it's more like 6 months. And Violet remembers how he was known as being a fantastic strategist. So she's like, I agree more with him. They also find out that the box that they found at Resin was some sort of lure, and they had to destroy it, but it was Navarian. It wasn't Promish or
So
Promish.
it was definitely a setup.
It was a setup. The wyvern were lured there by this box, and it looked like it came from Navarre, like the craftsmanship of it.
And they found a similar box at a different place,
Uh huh.
and it was destroyed. So they're like, we had to destroy it before we could actually find out more.
Find out more about how it works or what
Yeah.
it was doing. Yeah. We also confirm at this point that the alloy used to increase the wards in Navarre is the same material needed to craft those weapons to kill the dark wielders, right? So that's why there's a constant struggle over these. So Resin was the first place also that they saw the dark wielders actually organize under one leader, the sage. And that's when Violet tells Brennan that based on what the Venin told her, that was like their teacher. She's like, they called him the sage.
Yeah.
And Brennan's like, they're teaching each other now.
Great.
Great.
Dang it.
Great. Um, Brennan mentions that they have a dormant wardstone. And Violet's like, I thought there was only one wardstone ever created at Basgiath. And he's like, well, yeah, that's what's documented and stuff, but there is one here, but it's just kind of a pretty stone at this point. The art of creating new wards is lost magic. Lost magic. But Violet keeps thinking they wouldn't need as many weapons. There wouldn't be this need for the luminary or the need to attack different outposts if they could have protections. And Pormel, like they do, maybe even for the Griffin Riders as well. So she's like, I kind of countering that because it's not information that we would just destroy.
Yeah.
We might hide it, we might protect it, but we wouldn't just get rid of that because what if the wards ever fail? We need to know what to do.
Yeah.
Brennan says what they're currently focusing on is the luminary, but then also there's something 600 years ago that killed off the Venin. So we're researching and trying to figure out what that is. The luminary is basically for us to save time.
But we can't trust any scribes.
Right.
Because we know already that they rewrote history.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the assembly members that actually ended up sticking up for Violet in that discussion that you were talking about. Basically, it was like, because they brought up that she's the reason they were even there.
Yeah.
And everyone was kind of like, well, come on, like a memory reader. But she turned to her member and was like, but like, he's not your friend anymore.
No. And we knew that. He's a butthead.
We did, but kind of a lovable loser too.
No, he's just a straight weasel, not weaselly. He is a submissive to authority.
Weak. He's just weak.
He's a weak man.
Weak man. Emotional. No.
But they decide they're going to go.
Well, Violet goes to the group and is like, we have to go back.
Yeah, we have to go back.
Why do they have to go back?
Well, because everybody will be murdered. Anybody with a relic tattoo would be murdered.
If they're all deserters.
Yeah.
They're going to execute everybody.
Yeah. So, first she has to go check on her dragons. Mm-hmm. So she goes, and as she gets on the flight field, everybody's like very hesitant around her. And she's like, what? And like people are like standing in the way. Seagal is actually like standing right in front of what we assume is Andarna. And she's like, it's fine. And Seagal like obviously does not like her. Every time she gets into Violet's brain is some sort of like tisk motherly voice. This is
also it might be their family, because this is where Seagal like snaps at Brennan.
Yeah.
And Violet's like, Seagal, and he's like, she's never liked me, it's fine.
No. I mean, there's something to that though.
Yeah.
So something Brennan,
or maybe it's just a Sorengale thing.
I think it's a Brennan specific.
Because she remembers she bonded with Xaden, right, son of the rebellion leader, yeah. And she also bonded with his like great grandpa, great uncle or whatever.
Yeah. So maybe, well, and they do mention like humans. Like memory is so short.
Yeah.
We keep grudges for centuries.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so she goes and she actually sees Andarna, and she is huge, but she's not full grown. We find out she's like adolescent, and she's actually another black.
Yeah, he said black, scaled. Almost purple scales.
Yeah. And which black are very rare. We also find out one person's signet like is able to detect what scales or one of the dragon's powers.
It's one of the dragons. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two more black dragons that are
that's Tairn's defense when she's like, Are you sure that she's not yours? Baby? And he's like, she's not mine. All right. They're rare, but they're not unheard of.
Yes. But basically we find out Andarna is a sassy teen.
Yes.
And I totally see it because the stuff that she says, I hear coming out of my sassy teen daughter's voice.
Especially this initial interaction, knowing she needs to go into a dreamless sleep.
Yeah.
If your teenager needed to go into a dreamless sleep, I think she would be way more rude.
Yeah. Yeah. Hangry,
And
but
Darna's
on the
actually
dream
being pretty
side.
nice.
Yes. They have to fix the harness because Andarna can't even like widen her, even though she's like, I can totally fly.
Well,
I
no, there's
know I'm a
evidence that
teenager.
there might be a deformity there.
And they have to sneak her back to the veil as soon as possible. Their objective is to get there for graduation.
Right.
They have 48 hours to get there. She's thinking, does my mom know we were sent there? We 100% will just be killed upon sight if my mom was part of it. And so a second year that she actually didn't know but fought side by side with, he actually says, no, Atos was in
She
charge
wasn't
of war
there.
games.
Yeah,
She
no.
was
He also said Atos was bragging about how his dad had all of the war games.
My daddy, da da da. Anyway,
so they get back. Xaden and Violet, they all have their marching orders, right? They all have the different places they need to go. Xaden and Violet are going straight to Liam's room to grab the letters he told them about for Sloane, to make sure they're not burned with the rest of his belongings. So they get in the room. She finds them under the mattress. As soon as they walk out of the room, Ree and Riddick, which we didn't really... Riddick walked out of Ree's room.
uh-oh.
And it's very early in the morning on graduation day, I'm just going to say. I think last book, Sawyer walked out of Ree's room.
Well, and doesn't she have a girlfriend?
She has an on-again, off-again girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they say it's like the end is nigh. Get yours when you can.
Ree, they are surprised to see Violet, right? They thought she was dead. They thought, I think there was a rumor going around that they were lost, and they're like, but knowing who you were with, pointing to Xaden, they're like, we didn't think that, we didn't buy that either. Violet gives Ree the letters to keep safe, and seeing them and seeing, I'm assuming, the last name of who they were addressed to, right away Ree and Riddick are like, no, Liam, he was the best of us.
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, hide these, make sure they're not burned with the rest of the belongings just in case.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, in case what? She's like, I'll talk to you later. And they go to leave to get to formation.
And she even goes through her head like, oh, culturally is more lenient with the right of like having to burn everybody's personal belongings for them to rest in peace. She won't be like, no, we're supposed to burn these. I'll burn them for you.
Yeah, exactly. As they're walking away, Violet's like, how do you lie to people you care about? And he tells her that, one, I never lied to you. Again, he didn't. Omissions aren't lies. But the art of selective truths is something you're going to need to master for our safety and your own safety. You got to keep it compartmentalized. If you can't lie to your friends, maybe you need to just like keep your distance and stay away from them a little bit. I mean, he also tells her doing that is what cost me you, which is very sad.
Yes.
But this is also why I'm Team Xaden when it comes to this. But when the lives of everyone around you depend on a lie, it's hard to realize the truth that will save you. And I would do it differently now, is what he says. Yes. To me, okay, argument over. Done.
No, it's not argument over. It's I fell in love with somebody that doesn't exist. I need to understand who you are as a person because you kept so much of you a secret.
Not. She knew the important things. Anyways, I'm not arguing about this with you. Xaden, because you're kind of right. The next interaction makes me eat my words a little bit. Violet goes, well, you promised to tell me everything now. And he kind of goes, everything about me. I'll tell you everything about me. And she's like, that's not what you said. And he's like, you didn't fall for some ordinary rider, honey. You fell for the leader of a revolution. All right. So
some call a rebellion. Depends on who wins.
I'm always going to have secrets. It's just part of it. It's part of the job. And she's like, full disclosure or nothing at all. I can forgive you for keeping me in the dark up until now. But now I want complete and total honesty or I'm going to get busy unfollowing for you. And I love that as soon as she said that, Xaden was like, good luck with that. I tried for 5 months. Didn't work. Peace out, babe.
See you later. That is actually hilarious.
Yeah.
And she just stood there shocked and then was like, damn it, now I've got to go to formation.
Yeah.
So this is the final graduation ceremony, which is very different than what you would picture as a graduation ceremony, because the whole vibe is less, yay, you made it, more, okay, you survived, now get to work.
What, do you want a cookie?
Yeah.
Like, go do shit now.
Yeah. You lived to fight another day, now go fight. So it's very much just like, okay, get in line and you get your marching orders. They start, like they do every single morning, reading the death toll. And both Bodhi and Xaden's name comes up. And Xaden just yells from formation like, well, this is awkward. And Daddy Atos's face is just starting to get so bright red.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, well, we should have had him filed for desertion. And Markham's standing there like, you said they died. Why are they even written down on the death toll?
Yeah.
If they're not
He's like,
dead.
well, they've been gone for 6 days.
Yeah. And
which I was kind of like, okay, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense.
But anyway, the scribe is like, you gave me inaccurate information, mofo. I own the information. He didn't say that, but he was very annoyed.
That's the vibe you got.
And he was like, I'll have the scribe rewrite the whole report. And he's like, who survived? And marking off people. But anyway, Atos is like, we need to go and interrogate them because we don't know where they've been for 6 days. And General Sorngale she actually looks like she's relieved. She's like, what do you mean? They survived. They're back. They didn't desert. They came back. Mm-hmm. Which makes Violet think, okay, phew. She didn't know that they sent us into an attack. But anyway, Xaden gets called up to the top and is like, okay, here's what happened. And he said, we were sent into combat.
They were supposed to report there beyond the wards for the 4th Wing headquarters. And they stopped to like water the dragons and they were attacked by griffins.
Liam and Soalel died. They're like, the dragons were caught off guard and the dragons passed and they did too. So we lost 2. Mm-hmm. Then Violet got fatally wounded and she's like, yeah, I poison dagger. We went to Athbine to try to get help and it was deserted.
Right.
Then we went and just tried to find a trading post that could heal Violet because she was dying. And General Sorngale was like, yep, checks out. Like, thanks for saving my child. And Atos is just pissed and is like, there's no way griffins could take down 2 dragons.
Right.
And they're kind of like, oh, do you have another explanation that you'd like to share with the gallery?
Is there another threat?
Only Papa Atos knew what was like really happening. Right. And it was very clear that he set him up.
Yeah. Mom was like,
you're
change
in trouble.
The death roll. Also, when this is done, come to my office.
Yeah, you're in
got
trouble.
Detention too.
And she's very relieved her daughter is safe.
Yeah, they said, Violet said she almost looked like a look of pride.
Yeah, which she's never had.
No, but that's pretty cool.
Yes. Baby Atos comes running up and like is like, Violet, you're alive. Thank goodness, my love. And she's like, don't you put your effing hands on me.
Yeah.
Very loud, large spectacle.
I think she said,
for everybody
if
to
you
say,
touch me, I will cut your fucking hands off.
Yes. And he's just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Turns out you found out about those memories I've been stealing. Because who knows how many he's stolen over time.
Yeah,
He's always touching her face, which is weird for a friend, by the way. Don't ever touch my face, please.
I kind of thought that was weird when I was reading it even the first time.
Yeah.
The amount of times he touched her face.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's when I thought they were like childhood friends turning lovers. You know? Like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. And then true to Xaden's earlier words, when they were debating the plan, he had said, oh, we'll hit him with his pride until
like
her shields are strong.
Staying away if she can't shield. Yeah.
And so Xaden stands forward and is like, she didn't pick you. She picked me, sucker. And she was very clear that she doesn't want you to touch. And so this whole touching thing moved to everybody gossiping about, oh, Dane wanted her and she picked Xaden.
Right.
This love triangle between classes, which is highly frowned upon. So everybody thinks
Two
she's
upperclassmen.
banging her way to the top.
I think
But
you're
it
the only
doesn't
one
matter.
thinking
She
that.
is the top.
That's right.
She's got 2 dragons.
Bitch. So then a little bit later, the gang is all sitting around. Graduation's over, right? They're getting ready to party because all they have to do is prepare for
Which
the
this
new
is the
first years.
first time they get to party together ever.
True,
They've
because
been
first year's been
working their
intense.
butts off. And
So-
they've got like a week in between ending their first year and starting their second year where they can just party.
And the new first years are going to cross the parapet. Yeah. So the gang is asking what it was like to be in real battle because it's the first time they're seeing all these guys. Kind of throws Violet off. Imogen ends up chiming in and saying it sucked, and the only reason they survived was because of Xaden and Violet. And Violet's like, was that a compliment?
Imogen said something nice to me.
Imogen said something nice. They're sitting there chatting, drinking. Xaden comes into Violet's mind as they're toasting to Liam, which is also something you don't do after someone dies. You don't mention their name anymore. He's in his flight leathers, so she's like, oh, he's leaving.
Why is he leaving tonight, Nicole? He should leave tomorrow with the rest of them. No, he's not supposed to leave tonight. Everybody's leaving.
No, he doesn't have to get there till later, but he's like, if you're not going to offer me your bed, I didn't think that was an option. They like the third years to get out of there, especially wing leaders, to get out because people like to move up. So she's walking him out, and Atos walks up. Colonel Atos walks up, approaches them, gives them both new orders. He also introduces Violet to Colonel Varish, who already is reeking of dipshit douchebag vibes from the very beginning of this. And spoiler alert, he is a dipshit douchebag. So he's going to be taking their place. They look at their missives. They're given 2 days leave every 14 days. So once a week, Tairn and Segal will see each other for 2 days, but Xaden is posted 12 hours away. At the most southern post. I think it was southern, right?
Yeah.
Most southern post because their orders were written in because they thought they were dead. So there wasn't many options left. So it's going to take them 12 hours to get there and back, and they have leave for 48 hours every weekend, which they haven't been apart from each other for more than 3 days.
Ever.
And it was described as physically painful for them to be apart from each other.
Well, and you always go back to the adage, mere humans don't make dragon decisions.
Oh, yeah.
But they said, yes, that's probably true, but you guys will be, if you miss any of your duties or anything because your dragons are flying you somewhere, you get punished for it.
Yeah.
That's dereliction of duty.
Right. And it ending that conversation, Atos looks at them and said, secrets die with those who keep them, and that he would hate to see your mom lose either of her daughters. So not only threatened them, but threatened Mira.
Yeah.
Too, right? If you veer.
If you veer, or if you even tell her.
Right. So Xaden pulls in Violet and gives her some mind-to-mind advice. Tairn and Segal aren't going to be able to talk. They'll be able to feel emotions, like if someone's in danger or something like that, but they won't be able to talk over this distance. They're going to read every missive we pass back and forth. So keep that in mind. Don't involve yourself. Mel Green can see what you're doing. He can't see what we're doing.
You.
Yeah. So don't involve yourself. And you can only trust those who were at Ressin. Even the other ones with relics, while they're more trustworthy, there's a bunch that still have it out for your mom. Yeah. So you can only trust the ones that were at Ressin with you. And then Violet's still a little tipsy, and she's like, okay, well, I guess I could just walk over there and pick a warm body from my bed. And Xaden's like, you can, but you won't, because you still love me. In his cocky way.
And he's also like, I'm not.
Yeah, obviously. As he walks away, Ree comes up, and she has new orders. So, good news or bad news? She wants the bad news first. Dane's their new wing leader.
Ugh.
Good news.
I mean, we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
he the most likely suspect.
He could have been a section leader, right? That's third years as well. But wing leader. Might be some nepotism there. I don't know. Maybe daddy helped. Dane is their new wing leader. Sienna is their new executive officer, who was their executive officer of their squad. So now
Yeah.
she's executive officer of
Of
their
the wing.
wing, which is awesome. And Ree is their new squad leader. Yay!
Yay!
Very cool.
Ree deserves it.
Agreed.
But it is interesting that they didn't pick Violet, the most powerful dragon of the first years, and she bonded 2 dragons.
Doesn't necessarily mean good leader.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with it, though.
She's the show.
She's the
star.
she's
She's
the
not
muscle.
the director.
We find out why second year is so dangerous. There is a new course that nobody knows about. And in fact, during this course, the funny thing is everybody keeps like looking over at Violet like, what is he talking about? And she's literally like, I have no idea. I've literally read 0 about this because there's nothing.
The nature of the class is
Yes.
classified.
So this class is called Rider Survival Class, or, more commonly known as RSC. And it teaches you how to survive without your dragon. And there's like 2 major things with it, like how to read maps, how like survival skills. But there's also a heavy interrogation skills, which we all know to be basically torture.
Yeah, withstanding torture.
Yes. So, yay, a lot of people are going to get tortured in the second year, which I thought once you get past the first year and you have a dragon, then it's just like fun shit with your dragon.
No, it makes me wonder what third year's thing is.
Oh, well, we know that third years get sent all the time to like the front and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, she wants to go to the archives. It's her happy place. But she also wants to like understand more about wards now that we know that there's a ward stone at Orisha. So she goes when she knows Jesinia is going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually is saying, okay, how can I ask this in a way that she will never be connected to the wards, and finding out more. It's like, I have a speech about history and I want to know about like the founding of Basgiath and why they chose Basgiath as the place for the wards, like really walking around Wardstone.
Yeah.
So Justinia's like, okay, I'll look around. And so now we get to conscription day. And she is very anxious because she knows that Sloane is coming through, right? So she's got her eye out. Dane is in the exact position that Xaden was in last year. And then she and Ree are some of the people that are taking the names before they head out to the parapet.
Right.
So basically, I think Imogen was in that place last year. It doesn't matter. So she is taking the names, and there's very strict rules on what you can and cannot say. And Dane, like, everybody, like, make sure you know your assignments and make sure you follow the rules. Do you understand the rules, Violet? And she's like, yes, I get it. Leave me alone. Like, it's very curt with him in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And he's like the wing leader. So, and like under his breath, he's like, I just can't win today.
Such a little bitch.
But she is embarrassing him in front of everyone.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Be tougher, Dane. It's not that big of a deal.
Her and Ree go to the front and start taking names. And she actually noticed someone that she knows, and she starts saying Cam. And before she can like greet him or anything, he gives his name, Eric Greycastle. We come to find out, and these are like the little secrets that Violet's giving Ree because she's like, I can't keep any more secrets.
Yeah.
But we find out through this conversation between her and Ree that this is the king's third son. Both Atos and Violet know him from growing up.
Yeah.
You know, their parents are in a position of leadership. And even Dane is like, hey, does your dad know you're here? And he's like, my dad doesn't get a vote here. And so he goes across and they're like, oh shit, the king's going to be pissed when he finds out, but we wrote down his name like we were supposed to.
Yeah.
And people don't recognize him. So I guess it's not really well known around there.
Violet does mention his green eyes, I guess, is a very like
Dead
whatever
giveaway.
the king,
just
the
like her
king's
silver
lineage.
hair.
Yeah, but his hair's cut a little different and stuff like that. So there's only going to be certain people who would have ever actually met him.
Yeah.
Which is more like the professors. I don't think like the kids would know.
Yeah. Then Sloane Mari walks up, which
Right.
is Liam's sister. And Violet takes one look at her and is like, shit, she does not look prepared. She looks more prepared than, frankly, Violet would have been. But she like immediately hops down, grabs a hair tie and is like, put your hair back, at least in a braid. She's like, the wind is just going to whip her hair in her face. She's not going to be able to stand.
She basically does everything that her sister did for her.
Yeah.
Right.
And meanwhile, Atos is behind like, you're not supposed to do that. That's breaking the rules. And she's just like, shut up. You don't get a vote here. Meanwhile, Sloane looks her dead in her eye and is like, I know who you are. I hate you. You're the reason my brother died. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you can think whatever you think, but listen to these rules.
Yeah.
Because whether you like it or not, I'm going to try to save your life.
Yeah.
And so she gives her all of the rules. It's off to the parapet. Remember, everybody, once they get like a third of the way across, the next person's supposed to go. She doesn't let anybody go. She just stands there and waits to make sure she reaches all the way to the end of the parapet before she takes the next name.
Yeah.
Which is good, because if it would have been Jack Marlowe, they would have tried to kill Sloane.
Coming for you, Soren Gale.
Yeah. She also has Sloane switched to their wing section, because she was originally in a different place, and she's like, how am I going to save her?
Dane, I think, did that as a peace offering. Like, he saw Violet's reaction when she was put in like first wing or something like that, and he went over and had her switched over.
Yeah.
Just like Xaden did for her.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Dane, you get zero respect from me.
It's what I found interesting in that event too is when Sloane walks over and sees it's Violet's wing, she's like, no, and like kind of attempts to refuse. And Imogen and Ree put her in her place right away.
Yeah.
Like, Imogen's like, you're acting like a princess.
Yeah.
And she's a little like, what? And remember, they both have the relics, right? Mm-hmm. And Ree's like, that's an order. No one asked your opinion.
Yeah.
Get over there.
You're first year.
Yeah.
We don't even have to learn your name yet.
As they're standing there, right, we remember from Conscription Day last year that this is when the dragons come and make a scene and see if anybody runs, basically. So Violet's talking to Tairn and asking about Major Varish's dragon, this orange dagger tail with one eye, and he's like, he looks unstable. Tairn instantly switches and is concerned. He's like, Solus is there?
Yeah.
Do not take your eyes off of him. I'm coming.
Yeah, because Tairn usually doesn't go to this. He's like, I don't do parlor tricks.
I don't participate in this
but
shit.
As soon as he heard that Soul was there, he was like, fuck that.
Yeah. Dane's giving his little wing leader speech. She's like, he's trying to be as charismatic as Xaden. He is coming up very short.
He looks like an idiot.
Yeah. And Kath, his
Which
dragon.
I wonder, is that true? Did he really, or was it just that she's like so over him?
I mean, I'm sure it's both.
I mean, were the first years inspired and scared, or were they like...
I think Xaden, if they haven't said it yet in the book, they definitely say it later. Like, it's not an unknown thing that they all think Dane's annoying.
Okay.
It's not just her.
So Atos is just Atos.
Yeah, he's like
the
a rule
snivelly,
follower,
like,
little, like,
I can be cool too.
No, you
Look
can't.
I'm the same as Dane.
You can't be that like stringent and rule follower and be cool. Like, no, you're picking the side of the man.
Not all.
You're the man. He's the man. You're picking the side of the man, Dane.
I'm a rule follower and I'm cool.
Are you a rule follower?
What rules do I break?
As you're holding a bowl with a lighter.
This is legal.
It is.
In the comfort of my own home.
True story. All right, so Dane's given a speech. Kath breathes, which I find it interesting that Violet says Kath's breath stinks really bad.
Dude,
but
take care of your dragon, man.
Three different first years take off. And Violet can kind of tell by how long they're waiting. They're like, they didn't wait this long last year to torch these ones that were scared.
Yeah.
And how low Solus is getting, that they're all in danger. The aim's off. So she yells and jumps on Sloane. Her entire as Kath like breathes fire, her entire back, she said she can feel singed.
Yeah.
As soon as she gets up, she says, like, people say something about, I think it's Riddick's, like, your back, and she just pulls off the front of her uniform because it's like burned. All that's there is her armor.
Thank God she had that armor again.
I mean, she would have been flashing everybody. So when they get up, she sees Eric is okay. Sloane's okay because she jumped on her. Goes down the line. Nadine, Ree, Sawyer, Riddick. Solus took out the runners. One of the first years in their group. Half of the entire third squad. And then she looks at Imogen. And Imogen looks at her and is just like, Karen's gone.
Yeah.
Karen is gone. So Karen also was at Resson. Tairn lands behind the entire squad and is yelling, like roaring to everybody else, but Violet can hear it in her mind. You do not have rights to burn what is mine. And Solus like snarls at him, but flies away.
Mm-hmm.
Tairn tells Violet that he told Solus if he touches her again, he'll devour his human whole and let him rot within me while his heart still beats, and then I'll take the other eye that I so graciously left him. I was like, well, okay. That's graphic. That's graphic.
So let's just go back and review that threat. He said,
I will devour
human,
your human
I will
whole.
eat him, and I will make him sit alive in my stomach acid being tortured,
While
which
his
will
heart still
also be really painful for you while I rip your eye out.
Your
and just
other
let
eye.
You sit.
So he slipped in there that
I
he's the
took
one who
one
took his
eye.
first eye.
You want me to take the next?
I'll take the next bitch.
So again, he's like, we have vengeance for decades.
Yes.
So there's definitely an origin story to this rivalry.
Violet looks up and Varish is just glaring at her. So she's like,
Yeah.
if he wasn't my enemy before,
Mm-hmm.
he definitely is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hates me. So Violet has more enemies than previous. We thought we were getting rid of enemies by like killing Jack and stuff, but turns out bigger, more powerful enemies keep sneaking through.
Yes.
And she keeps having nightmares about different people dying and just like, what if they would have lost and the sage would have won? So she's just struggling. She actually, through all this turmoil, is realizing, okay, the scribes have to be in on it. Did my dad know? I don't know. But Markham has to have known because he's the leader of the scribes. He's the one that would have had to put pen to paper to actually make this happen. And so this person that she used to idolize, she's like, I really can't trust anyone.
Right.
This guy was like a second father to me, and I was going to be his protege. Who would I have become? Right? So nightmares, internal turmoil, distancing herself from her friends. Like Ree actually calls her out on like how she's avoiding them because she can't tell her any of the secrets. You know, why is she in a fight with Xaden? Well, I can't tell you. So she's like going a lot to Imogen and the other kids that were there at the resin instead of Ree.
I mean, they're in their 20s. They're not kids.
They're kids compared to us. No offense. If they could be our kids, they're still kids.
The only reason I say that is because I kind of appreciated that these guys were at least in their 20s.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like we found out she was 15 and then we just never talked about it again.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Well, Ree thinks that it's because she picked Sawyer as her like second officer or whatever it's called. And Violet's like, no, that was an amazing pick. I would have been horrible. I'm gone every other week.
Ree's like, see,
that's exactly what I thought. And she's like, no, I'm just going through shit.
Yeah.
She actually doesn't say that. She's just like, no, nothing's wrong. Everything's dandy.
Fine.
Which, of course, Ree knows that's not true.
Yeah.
So now it is time for Emitero and assessment day. We knew what happened last assessment day is she fought Imogen and Imogen ripped her arms off.
Pretty much ripped her arm.
She had to go to the healer on the first day.
Not only did she do that, Imogen looked at her and was like, your bitch of a mom killed my mom.
You're going down. Yep. Yeah. And Imogen already gave her one compliment this year. So we're progressing.
We are.
And she's actually the only one that Violet confides in also.
They run every morning because they both get the nightmares.
Well, yeah, she's getting nightmares of when the sage I think it was the sage that did it, but was drawing power from the earth.
Yeah.
And so Lel was running towards him to fight him, and anything within the realm of that just disintegrated.
Yeah.
So her and her dragon just disintegrated because they were part of the power that was drawn, I guess.
Yeah.
So she's trying to run faster than how fast he's able to draw power from the earth.
Right.
So Sloane is going through and it's her turn. And she's like, I want to fight Violet. She's the reason my brother died. And Imogen was like, do you really want to die today? That's just stupid. And again, Violet's like, oh, that was a compliment.
Well, and not only that, Sloane's like, last year in your letter you said, like, how hard could it be? Her joints just pop. And Violet's like, what? And Imogen's like, listen, to be fair, remember,
I didn't like you then.
I didn't like you last year.
Yeah.
But now we're running buddies.
You're an acquired taste. And then also Professor Amatero steps in and is like, I also know who trained you, and we're not repeating last year when a second year comes and beats the hell out of somebody.
I'm not unleashing that on you.
Yes.
I've made mistakes before.
Yeah. Meanwhile, some big husky man comes up and is like, did somebody say Sorngale? And Nadine steps up as the jokester she is and is just like, oh yeah, I'm Sorngale. And he just cracks her neck.
Yeah.
Right in front of everyone.
Just snaps her neck and she like falls to the ground.
Yes. So an assassination attempt or just another first year who hates the Sorngale name.
Yeah.
Violet goes nuts on him.
Well, and she tells everybody not to intervene.
Yeah.
Like she's already got her daggers drawn and
like,
they are fighting. And this guy's huge.
Oh, he's so big.
She said he's bigger than Dane, but not as big as Xaden.
Yeah.
Okay. Crazy.
And he gets her around the neck, doesn't he?
He gets her in a headlock and he whispers to her, secrets die with the people who keep them.
Fucking Atos.
Fucking Atos.
So she stabs him in the kidney right where Xaden told her. And
multiple times.
Yes.
I see like this little like
until he literally is on top of her and she has to like shove him off.
Yeah.
But in her brain, she's like, keeps reminding herself, don't try to do the big moves.
Yeah.
She coaching that Xaden was giving her now is just naturally in her head. And she's like, right here in the kidneys where my love interest told me. And she called him a love interest because they're not boyfriend girlfriend right now.
I don't think that's
She's
what she
mad
said at all.
She's so mad. So she kills somebody on the first day, has blood all over her, but also has, again, another throat bruise. She's had how many of those thus far? Like 4. And Dane runs up to her and is like, oh my God, are you okay? And she looks at him again and says, don't fucking touch me.
Yeah. So loud that when Amatero comes over, he's like, can I touch you? And she's like, oh, I guess I yelled that at you.
It was very much giving like sexual trauma.
Yeah. But he wants her to leave and she won't leave. So she wants to stay. She's like, I'm not leaving the way I did last year.
Yeah.
She goes over and tells Imogen what the cadet said.
Yeah.
That they're definitely being targeted.
Yeah. And she also stays for Sloane's fight and is like, oh shit, she did not train. Yeah. And even Sawyer was
I thought it was cute that they all had like a vested interest in Sloane. Like Sawyer was there, Riddick was there. Yeah.
And Riddick says, that's really Liam's sister. Because she's like, they knew she was coming to the writer's quadrant. Did she get 0 lessons?
Is this when Imogen tells them that it depends on what family that they were with?
No, yeah, probably.
Yeah, that it depended on the families they were with. And when Xaden started to climb the ranks, a lot of families stopped training them.
So that means the person that's 6 right now is not going to be ready at all for the writer's quadrant.
Violet might have been better off than Sloane even last year coming in because she at least trained for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
Yeah, probably.
But it was not good. That's for sure.
It's not.
Violet gets back upstairs and Xaden is in her room waiting when she gets back. They haven't seen each other in 8 days. He was supposed to actually be there the day before, and he got there later today. He knows the cadet tried to kill her, and that she killed him, and that Ato sent him.
His network is faster than her legs walking.
He was very pissed about it as well. Gives him the rundown. He said the outpost is like starting over. And she's like, oh, is it like for all the guys with the relics? And she's like, no, I think the last name, or he is like, I think the last name has a lot more to do with it. Garrick is They're treating him a lot nicer, which he appreciates, but the Ryerson
Still.
name is not. And because he's the first one
Yeah.
from the rebellion. So Violet gives Xaden a rundown of Basgiath, and they're like, I fake, I hate you kind of way back and forth. He tells her, though, that he warded her room again
Mm-hmm.
for him, obviously, when he goes in, but it's warded for sound and anyone she wants to bring in, alluding like she can bring in other people if she wants to.
You be you, boo.
Violet also confides in Xaden that she couldn't watch everybody cross the parapet. After a certain point, she just stopped watching or listening, even once she took people's name. And she said she doesn't know why it's so much harder. And he tells her that it's harder to watch the younger people. When you're first there, you're all surviving together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just making it through. But then when you've already done it and you're watching the younger people, it's hard. He says that the first year is when some lose their lives, and the second year is when you lose your humanity. And not to forget that part of the mission to turn them into effective weapons. So you got to always remember that. So the fact that she even cared that she couldn't watch people cross the
Yeah.
parapet shows she still has some of her humanity.
Yes.
It does
But
make
she
me understand.
stopped and she's like, I don't want to have any friends. I don't want to know your names.
It makes it more understanding the advice that Quinn and Imogen were giving them, because like
Yeah.
it is too hard. Too many people are dying.
Well, and how they didn't even talk
Yeah,
without snarling until after the threshing.
right.
And she's like, this is why.
So they're kind of getting into good conversation, and then Bodhi knocks at the door for him and Ryerson to leave, probably some sort of weapons run. And Violet really wants to go with. She's kind of begging him like a little kid, and Xaden's like, "Not yet. You need to pay close attention to what happens when you leave in 7 days to come to Samara." He hands her a paper, and I thought this was so freaking cute. He says that she once told him he was afraid she wouldn't like him if she got to know him. And he's like, "This is how we can get to know each other." And he wrote her a letter
Mhm.
that she then read over and over and over again.
Well, and I like that they didn't like write the letter because now my imagination goes of
Yeah.
how romantic it was or how
She'll
sweet it was.
She asked how she's going to find his room next weekend, and he tells her exactly where it is, and she's like, "Oh, let me guess. It's warded against sound and for you and anybody you want to come in." He's like, "No, just you and me, Violet.
Just
You
you
can
and me,
take whoever
girl.
you want in your room, but you won't, because I know you love me.
I wonder
I only
what
have you
would
warded."
he get jealous or something if she brought somebody into her.
I mean, just the way when she
He
said
says
she
it.
saw Liam in the hallway, Tairn, she didn't know how to
Yeah.
block out Tairn and Seagal,
Yeah.
makes me think he would definitely.
But he's all cocky about like you can but you won't. But if
Because
she
he
did,
knows. He
he'll
knows.
well, it's her
He
prerogative.
knows. He knows. So she's running with Imogen early in the morning, and she kind of starts to talk about things. Like Imogen's like, "Why don't you just freaking forgive him?" And then she starts to talk more detail, and Imogen's like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm sorry.
We're not friends.
I'm not your friend,"
Mm-mm.
right? Like I was just
I
simply stating a
have a
fact.
friend.
I have a friend. Her name is Quinn. Don't
Yeah.
need any more.
You
Um,
also have a friend.
you also have a friend. But as they're talking, Violet spots Jacinia, which is really weird to see a scribe randomly in the middle of the writer's quadrant. Jacinia brings Violet a book on the early writers that she requested information on, and Jacinia also wanted her help translating some old Lyserish, which Violet can read. So she helps her. As they're talking, they see a rider being dragged from a building by two officers and Professor Markham following. Jasenia's like, "I think that's my fault." She said he had requested a book the day before, and she recorded the request. And when Violet asked what book it was, she obviously was just very scared and was like, "I need to go, I need to go." So she like runs off. Violet gets a letter from Mira. She was a little disappointed actually about it.
She thought it was
um,
another love letter.
but the crazy part about it, most of it was redacted. Most of it was blacklined, which we thought was a little weird. Varish walks up to them and comments, "He is such a dick." This whole conversation really pissed me off. He comments about the bruises on her neck. "That's a nice necklace she got there." And I loved how Violet's like, thanks, it was expensive. It cost someone their life.
Mhm.
Like, she gives it right back to him,
Oh,
like,
she's so
right
witty.
within flirting the line of being disrespectful, basically. He says, good to see the embarrassment didn't finish the job, but I guess you're probably used to barely squeaking by, seeing how frail you're rumored to be. That's a direct quote.
I mean, she's got
Asshole.
2 dragons, and you got this little itty bitty guy with
I.
one
How
eye.
do you picture him? Because I don't think they ever described him.
Just very, not as ugly as Jafar, but very Jafar-esque.
But like the same height as Violet.
Snivelly.
Like
Yeah.
tiny, tiny man is
Yeah.
what I picture.
Just snivelly.
Yes. He also like alludes to, or no, he asks her straight out about how does she feel about Tairn giving her an easier path, like referring to conscription day. Asks about her feather tail and tells her that Andarna must report to flying next week. And when Violet's like, dragons don't take orders from humans, he says, of course not, but you do. So he's playing that little freaking game with her again. And then he points out as he's leaving too that his dad was doing her dad was doing research on feather tails. And it's interesting, isn't it? Or I think he says ironic that you're bonded to one. And she's like, coincidence. The word you're looking for is coincidence. He's like, is it?
Yeah.
Alluding to like he knows more than she does about her.
Which he definitely does.
Probably, but I want to
Yeah.
know what it is. He's not somebody that I would want to mess with. That's for sure.
So now it's finally time for Violet to visit Xaden. And
Well,
so
for Tarn to visit Seagal.
for Tairn to visit.
Tairn.
So she's like walking over there with Bodhi, and she's like, you don't need to walk me all the way. He's like, no, it's fine. So Bodhi's like giving her a lot of like cryptic, like, okay, and then tells Xaden, we sat by the perch. Like, that's not exactly what it was, but it's just very ambiguous, like coded messages.
The thing is in the thing.
The car is in the garage. Wink, wink. He almost said wink, wink at the end. But she was like, okay, you're making me just feel like a letter transported back and forth. And he's like, this is the best way to get information, secure information back and forth. And in a way that until you can block and shield anything from Dane, that you're safe.
You don't really know anything.
You don't really know anything. And she's kind of like, that sucks. But Xaden was supposed to start teaching her. They didn't even get to see each other really last time. Who knows?
She got, attempted.
Yeah, I mean, she almost died instead.
Yeah.
And Bodhi is just like, by the way, when are you going to just forgive him already? She's like, we've barely talked. I don't want to talk about this with you. And he's like, I mean, I've never seen him like that. Not even with Katriana. And she's like, excuse me, who is that? So I
like how he's like, any chance you're gonna maybe forget about that on the 12-hour flight? She's like, no, absolutely not. Yeah,
I'm gonna keep that in the locker.
Who is that?
So anyway, she walks out to the field, and Varish is, of course, sitting there and is like, we need to check your bags. And she's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so she hands the bag over, and she's like, thank God they didn't make me carry anything. And they like take everything out and like dump it.
Yeah.
And then she has to put everything back. Of course, they don't find anything. She gets up on Tairn, and Tairn's like, good thing they didn't check me. And he's got these 2 huge bags.
Are we packing? He's like, yes, we are.
Yeah, we are. So they didn't check him. Varish actually says, see you in 48 hours, and I'll be contemplating the punishment that you're going to receive.
Because your dragon didn't show up.
Your Andarna didn't show up, and I told you she didn't. Yeah. Again, she's like, dude, dragons don't take orders from mere humans. And he's like, well, we'll see when you get back. I'm very excited for this. And then Bodhi was just like, yeah, I walked you all the way because I knew something like this would happen. Imogen and Aya actually all got attacked today.
Yeah.
So that's the 4th now assassination attempt across all of us.
Karen was the first one, and
she died.
He, right?
He, yeah. Oh,
was it a she?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
No.
They died. That person died.
There's obviously targeted
Yeah.
shit going on here.
On people who were there.
Yeah. We're at Reston.
Yeah.
All right, Violet, 12 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
Tairn flies pretty fast when he wants to see his girlfriend. Gets to Samara, can feel where Xaden is. So she gets up to his room and then feels like he's below her. So she
Yes.
goes through this corridor and she can kind of hear people and goes in and there are fights going on. And she sees Xaden shirtless and in the ring with another rider.
And it's all riders.
It's all riders, everyone in black.
It's Fight Club.
It's Fight Club. Another officer next to her tells her that there's only one pass for lieutenants, and Jarrett has it. Ryerson wants it, and she's like, "Oh, she wants to make sure Seagal isn't out, can see Tairn, and wants to see me." And it's funny. This other lieutenant is like, "I really thought Jarrett was gonna take him out sooner," and she's like, "Nah, Xaden's playing with him." And at one point, she's first of all thinking about how incredibly hot he is the whole time. And then she just kind of jumps into his brain and is like, stop playing with him and end it. Xaden smiles and is like, always so violent, and then ends it.
Yes.
He wins, and when they check out, the officer's like, all right, looks like you have a 48-hour leave. Xaden says, I only need 24, and Jarrett can have the other half, which I thought was really sweet as well. Violet,
that means the next person
Uh-huh.
that he has to do this with will hopefully be like, yeah, you can just take the first day.
I don't think that's the crew that they run in with.
I know, but that's what I would do.
Especially if it was against him, for sure.
I'd just be like, yeah, you take the first day and owe me one.
And owe me one.
Yeah.
Owe me one. Violet very much wants him and is trying to resist. Xaden pushes her a little bit, knowing that what she's thinking. Like, I want to know what your beautiful face is thinking. Violet's like, hypothetically speaking, asking for a friend. If I maybe wanted you to kiss me, but that was it. And he just like crashes onto her mouth before she can even finish it and like carries her over.
A very
not all
good
the way
kiss.
up to his room, right? Or just to a closet or something.
A very good kiss.
It was Rebecca Yarros knows how to write a good kiss.
She nailed it.
So it's very sweet and loving, but also like very much I want you and need you.
Mm-hmm.
And Xaden kind of pulls away. And Violet's like, we can just have sex. Like last year.
Yeah.
What you wanted to do. He's like, no. I'm not going to use sex as a way to get you back. Meaning I know I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
And
it's too easy. I want your soul. It's your soul that I crave.
He's like, it was a very Notebook moment. I'll kiss you whenever you want to be kissed. But don't offer me your body unless you're willing to give me everything.
I mean, her lips are part of her body, but whatever.
Don't offer me your body until you're willing to offer me everything. Offer him everything, Violet.
But she's saying...
Offer him everything.
Offer me everything, too.
Shut up. Shut up.
Equality.
Hush your mouth. Shush.
I have this conversation with my daughter all the time. I don't want truth. I want transparency.
Well, he's telling her, I want to hear I love you from you.
And she said, I'll love you if I can trust you to give me transparency.
How is that not transparent? He is being transparent. Anyways, doesn't matter. We're not talking about it. Team Xaden, you got 400 more pages to get on my side.
I'm not Team Xaden.
He said last year he would have done anything to get her back, but watching her unconscious for 3 days changed everything. And this is him doing things differently because he said he would do things differently.
Fair. I guess that's what I asked for. I said he shouldn't have taken it all the way if he wasn't going to give her everything. So I'm getting what I asked for.
Listen, you don't want to hear everything about your significant other's job. Okay?
I do hear everything about my significant other.
I think it's a given. Like, she's also part of the rebellion.
Yes.
So it's a given she's not going to know everything.
Why not?
Because does Imogen know everything? No.
But
leaders have to sift through information and tell people strategically when it's needed, right? There's a reason. And you're a soldier. You're training to be a soldier. Shut your mouth and do your soldier job and know that I love you so much. I would never, ever put you in jeopardy and would never withhold something from you that you needed to know.
Like your brother exists.
Yes.
Do you
They
that
didn't know where she
that
really
so
was.
now
But
so I
they didn't
think they need
know
to have
until she fought with them at Resson. They
Mhm.
really didn't know where her loyalties lied.
Okay. And my point was, don't take my body and my mind and my soul if you're not giving me your soul.
He was actually very clear with her that there would never be a future with them. If you remember. If you remember, he did say all those things. And then he's allowed to change his mind. And so is she. That's fine. But I think she should just shush her mouth and go
I'm
with
just
it.
saying
I would rather
they
have
need to
three.
have a conversation about what is and is not on the line of what you should be sharing. To me, my brother's still alive is a should share.
She didn't tell Mira.
Yet.
Fuck. Save that. I'm going to say it again in a little bit. We're going to talk about this
I can
again.
cut it in. It's okay.
All right. So after a shower, Violet asked Xaden about the dagger she gave him and how it was made of what powers the wards. Xaden's like, yeah, here's another one, and explains that it's not the power itself, but the dagger is capable of holding power. The wards themselves originated from the veil. These hold extra power to boost those wards. So it's imbued with power, and that's why there's entire armories at the outpost to boot of these weapons to boost the wards and keep the borders from any weak points. But once one of these daggers is used, it then has to be imbued again, which means like the writer pours power into it, and there's not many people who like can do that. Arisha needs the forge to smelt the alloy to make more of these weapons, so it gets the it hot enough. So Xaden confirms with her, answering her questions like he said he would. He hasn't said no yet. Xaden confirms that it takes dragon fire and a luminary to intensify that dragon fire hot enough to actually smelt these. So he is opening up. I just want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I still disagree with you. She has a right to be upset and take a break. And it's not annoying.
It is annoying because
It's
I have to.
only been 2
hear
weeks.
I hear her inner dialogue.
Yes.
So her inner dialogue is annoying. Tairn agrees with me too, because he gets in her head as well. Everybody agrees with me. You're on an island by yourself.
Me and Violet are on the island, and
You're
frankly,
sexless island.
we are the winning island because she's the only one with a vote.
Sexless island. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And I'll get to listen to your internal dialogue about how you wish you weren't on this island, but you put yourself on the island. You could just go.
She's trying
with your
to
feelings.
set a boundary, and he's setting a different boundary.
She's lying
they will
to
get
her
there.
own feelings.
We know they'll
what
get
she
there.
Really wants because she's stubborn. Marisa is a Taurus, you guys. I'm not
think
surprised she's
that
taking
long.
the stubborn stance in this one.
2 weeks isn't that long of a fight. Stubborn. They're still monogamous.
We could have gotten 3 pages of a great sex scene instead of 3 pages of a great kiss.
Okay.
I feel robbed.
Okay, fair. Okay. So Violet gets back after her very short time, and I feel like Tairn and Seagal are both very snippy ever since this schedule happened. Yeah. I really don't think they're going to be able to handle it for very long.
I mean, it's hard to tell because we only get to hear Tairn's inner dialogue, and he's already a grouch.
Yeah, fair.
So,
yeah. So they get back, and she finds out that her punishment is going to be through her lesson with Carr. And so while she is trying to do her signet, Varish. Again, I know, I should know. I think it's Varish. Varish is standing and is like, again. And he is like trying to just burn her out and is like punishing her. And he keeps pushing to have Andarna be studied. She needs to come to the next one. If this happens again, your next punishment will be even worse. This is your warning.
Yeah.
And it finally gets to a point where she's like, I'm going to burn out. Like, I might not make. And Tairn tells her to cut it off. And Carr starts even like pushing back, like in the midst, like, okay, I think we've had enough.
Yeah.
She's getting warmer.
Well, he also brings up leadership would be upset if this is how she died from burnout because it's a very valuable signet. Like he's throwing everything he can.
Yeah.
And Varsh is like another one.
Yep.
Another one.
And so
Another one.
finally, he's like, one more. And so she's like, okay, I can do one more. I can do one more. And Tairn in her head is like, don't do it. Stop immediately.
Well, and Darna even like wakes up because of her emotions.
Yeah.
So they're like trying to tell her, no, go to sleep. I'm fine. It's nothing I can't handle.
And then Darna's like, what? This is because of me?
Yeah.
And it really is because he's like, make her come.
Yeah.
Make her. And she's like, I'll come. They're like, no, go back to sleep. You are kind of a B word when you're not sleeping.
You need to grow.
Yes.
We're not going to talk about your wing, but you need to grow.
You need to grow. But anyway, Violet's like, okay, one more. I can do one more. And she goes, starts like letting it go. And then she's like, oh, shoot, I can't turn it off. And it's just like going and going. And she like starts losing control and she can feel herself heating up. And she's like, oh, and finally Tairn in her head just yells at her like the old man he is and just like tells her to turn it off.
Mentally,
and so she mentally
off.
just turns it off. And Tairn growls and grabs her and goes and takes her immediately to cold water and like dunks her. He's like, don't worry, help is on the way. Don't worry, help is on the way, dear. Like Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if you knew the reference or not.
I'd say it all the time.
Me too. Okay. She is laying there. Bodhi, Imogen, Aya.
All people that were at wrestling.
Yeah.
It's not Ree and Sawyer and those guys.
Yeah. And basically Tairn in her brain says, I'll deal with it.
Well, and they put two
That'll
and two
never
together.
happen
Like,
again.
what did Carr do? He's using your signet against you? Like, what is going on? Because Tairn needed them to make these connections too.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're gonna take care of it, or we're gonna do this. And Tarn's like, tell them, I'll take care of dragon business.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pissed.
Yeah, it's crazy that they're just getting away with that.
Yeah.
Because
it is Basgiath though.
Yeah, that's true.
A bunch of people die all the time.
But she like gets up to like 30, 25 to 30.
Yeah, and what I don't understand is even like this was punishment, right?
Yeah.
But even her other things with Carr, her other signet lessons, it's all about how many. It's not about
how
aim.
Yeah.
So part of me is like, why are they focusing on how many? Are they wanting her to power something? Are they wanting her to like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just find that weird. Like, why would that be the focus?
I don't know. I think it's just pure punishment. So she almost dies from burnout.
Yes.
Tairn saves her and says, that ain't happening again.
Yeah.
And she can't fully rest because she's in the middle of second year. Ree, Riddick, Sawyer are walking down and they're quizzing each other on this upcoming quiz. And Violet, of course, is not feeling her best because she just went through all that. Like, she's weak. She's kind of despondent. And I think Riddick or Sawyer, I forget which one, said, oh, she must be nervous for the quiz. And she's like, no, I just haven't slept in decades.
Yeah.
It feels like. And almost died yesterday.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But they don't know that.
They don't know that. So they're in the hallway and they actually get attacked. There's like bags put over their head and they get dragged away. And she's like, shit, they got dragged into it. We're all going to get murdered or interrogated. This is not good. When the things come off, she actually finds out that's not what it is. This is actually the first quote unquote quiz of the RS land navigation. And there is a second year group of infantry.
It's their squad.
A couple healers and then one scribe.
And one scribe, yeah. And she knows the scribe, which I thought was cute as well.
Yeah. Ree and the head of the infantry actually both got maps. They have to get to the extraction point within a day. they're like, okay, where are we? They're fighting over where we are. They actually start fighting over which group is more superior, which is interesting.
It's like Army versus
Yeah.
Marines. Like they're arguing
It's
with each
like,
other,
are
basically.
you kidding me? And I forget if it was Riddick or Sawyer, but he's like, she actually has been in active war and is bonded with 2 dragons. Are you really going to relate that to what you did in the first year?
Yeah. And
Like,
she's embarrassed. She's like, oh,
like
no.
50% of our people got killed just by coming to class.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, but I will say they also pointed out that the infantry actually knew how to survive. They knew how to use the land to build shelter, to cook food, to hunt. And they're actually like, well, shit, like we could fight, but
Yeah.
we can't really survive without these guys.
Yeah.
But there's still not that general respect for each other. And they do know the purpose of this is there's also dragons flying around that may or may not decide to eat us.
As they're finding out about their mission, she's reaching out to Tairn like, you're supposed to see Seagull. If I'm not done with this by tomorrow,
Yeah,
you
get
need to
out of
make
here.
sure you go. You need to make sure you go. And then they find out not only are they against another group, but your dragons are hunting them as their dragons are hunting you as well.
So Tairn can't get away.
So Tairn can't get away.
We just have to hurry up with this mission.
Right, right.
So Tairn and her cannot communicate at all because when they got waters at the very beginning, Violet said, "Oh, this tastes funny." And then she realized it was something, some sort of drug or something that cut off the bond.
Right.
So they don't even have ability to do any magic. They are just survival.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And they can't talk to their dragons, which probably means the dragons are going nuts, in all honesty.
As they're trying to find their way, they come across a dragon, and it just so happens to be Jack Barrow's orange dragon.
Bade.
Who has some beef with Violet. She killed his
allegedly
bonded rider.
Allegedly, she dropped a mountain on him.
She may or may not have murdered him in cold blood.
Right.
But did he deserve it?
I mean, yeah.
He tried to murder her multiple times.
Yeah, totally.
He just sucked at it. And the infiltrians are all of a sudden not righteous at all. Because they before were like, these guys can't even feed themselves. And now they're like, oh shit, what do we do? And Violet, under her breath, gives directions to the infantry people around her on how to respond to orange dragons, which is basically fucking their alpha do, like, don't make eye contact, stay down.
Ree throws out orders too.
Yeah.
And it's like healers, like infantry guard the healers and the scribe. Riders get in front. And it's kind of like to Violet, are you sure? And she's like, I'm not hiding. So she gets in front with them, knowing for sure.
Yeah.
Bade knows who she is.
Yeah. And so I'm on the front lines. Somebody in the infantry freaks out and like runs away. And the infantry squad leader actually grabs them and pulls them back. But in the process, actually gets killed.
It was the same thing. They all had to drop. And he didn't make it. Only advice we have, don't run. Don't look at him. And Ree's like, that's why you don't fucking run. You dumbass.
We had 2 rules and you guys broke them. So they lost the leader of the infantry. And they realize both of their maps are different. All of that bickering back and forth that they were having, both of them were right. They were just looking at different maps.
They were looking at 2 different
maps. And so they knew that they had lost. Now it's just like, okay, we failed the mission. We just have to wait for everything to wear off until we feel our dragons again.
Violet's like, tell me you saw Seagull. He's like, I did for a few hours, but I didn't leave until Bade did.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Tairn knew. They didn't feel the dragons at all. Tairn could feel and hear everything, but couldn't respond. And that's very torturing to the dragons.
That is. That sucks.
And she was a little heartbroken she didn't get to see Xaden. Back at Basgiath, Violet talks to Jasenia about what the rider asked for that got him killed. And Jasenia's like, he died? And she's like, yeah, he was on the death toll a couple of days later. And she said he kept asking about a border attack that didn't exist. She's like, he came back 3 different times because he had family who died in it. So she documented it and sent it up because maybe like she missed something or there was
Yeah.
something that happened. Violet then asked, "Did you record my requests earlier in the summer?" And she's like, "I didn't." Violet's like, "Why?" And she said first because she was a little embarrassed she couldn't find anything, so she thought it
Yeah.
was imposter syndrome. Then because it was weird that there was nothing. She even looked up Wyvern. Nothing. She even sent messages about it to other archives, and it was very obvious they had the most folklore out of any of them. And so Jacinia was kind of, I want to say talking out loud, but she was signing out loud that the archives are incomplete by
Hmm.
either ignorance, and Violet's like, or what? And she goes, or intention.
Yeah.
So this is how Violet's like, she gets it. She
Well, she
understands it.
even commented like, "Wow, she's catching on really quick."
She's getting it.
Actually.
She's getting there. Violet's worried that now Jacinia is going to be in danger.
Hmm.
And Jacinia's like, don't, I can handle myself. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
What do you need?
What do you actually want?
What do you really need? Violet's like, I need information on how the first 6 built the wards. No one can know I need it, and no one can know I'm researching it. Justinia's like,
The
okay.
oldest, the older, the better.
The older, the better. Yeah. Justinia's like, gotcha. We meet on Saturdays. No one's ever here. It's quiet. We can exchange. Only on Saturdays. She like repeated it.
Multiple times.
Only on Saturdays.
Yeah.
So we have someone in the scribes now that I think we trust. I think Jacinia is trustworthy.
Agreed.
She screams trustworthy to me. Challenges are coming up. Violet, up to her good old ways, knows who Sloane is going to be challenged.
Of course she does.
By. And we know from last year it's the stronger against the weaker to weed out the weak. So she knows everyone is nervous about it. Violet tells Ree she's not going to lose. And Ree's like, how do you know? And she's like, I'm not going to tell you because then you don't have to feel guilty about not reporting me, but you don't got to worry. She's not going to lose. All right? So
it's handled.
Sloane getting her ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Very much getting her ass kicked. The person she's fighting plus their entire wing is looking a little green too. A little pale. Like they're not doing too good. We do know Violet put something in their pastries that she put out all to eat. She's like, I didn't know which one was going to eat it, so I just poisoned everybody.
I just poison. I'm just so good at poison.
It's fine. So I was thinking at first it was the same thing she did with that guy who puked all over.
Oren.
Or what was it? Oren.
Oren,
who puked all over the mat. Sloane's down in a headlock. She coughs, blowing something in her opponent's face, which stuns her, and she kind of like wobbles like she's drunk. And Sloane's able to get her in a chokehold until she yields. When Imogen looks at Violet and is like, what did you do? And she's like, what needed to be done? And Imogen's like, you sound like Xaden. And she's like, Imogen's like, no, that's a compliment, I swear. Liam is like so grateful right now.
Yeah.
She was going to die for sure. Violet pulls Sloane aside afterwards and tells her how she helped her. That with the Lily Bell that she gave them, that's like a mild stomach cramp, but paired with the powder, you get disorientation, and that's why you were able to win. Imogen's impressed.
Yeah.
Imogen's, I love how their friendship is like molding and growing bigger and bigger as this book goes
Imogen
on.
was like, oh, I just thought you were a little bitch.
She's like, no, I think Imogen looked at her, she's like, fucking brilliant, but devious, but fucking brilliant. Like, impressed. So Violet tells Sloane that she did it for her brother. Liam was one of my closest friends, and I promised him while he was fucking dying that I would look after you, and that's what I'm gonna do. Sloane tries to be like, I don't need your help, and Imogen's like, wrong approach. Thank you is a better approach. Say thank you. And we know that their families are close. Like Imogen was writing her letters last year, telling her about Liam because Liam couldn't write her letters.
Yeah.
And confiding in her. So they are really close. Sloane says she isn't thanking her, and Liam would be here if it wasn't for her. And Violet's like, you're right. He would be.
Fair point.
I miss him every single day. And because I love him, it's okay if you hate me. You can hate me as much as you want, but you're going to train. And you're going to accept help. And you're going to do it because I have something you want. She's like, I don't want anything from you. She's like, I think, bet you do.
Gotcha.
I have 50 letters from your brother to you. For every week, that you come to training, whether it's every day or whatever Imogen wants you to do, I'll give you a letter. Don't die.
Please don't die.
um, Sloane's like, Liam didn't need help, and if I'm supposed to meet Malik, then I will. And Imogen's like, that's not true. Violet and Tairn saved him in the war games. Sloane didn't know anything about that.
Of course.
Kind of shut her up a little bit. As they're walking away, Imogen's like, you're a lot more clever than I gave you credit for, and I totally get why Xaden fell for you. Which is funny because I think it's interesting because Violet used to think that Imogen had a thing for Xaden.
Now we go back to day. Ree actually got a letter from her parents, and it was a like flyer that they handed out in some of the border villages saying, don't take in people you don't know, be wary of strangers, don't trust them, report it right away, basically. Right. See something, say something. And while they're actually talking about it, Markham actually walks by and is like, oh, and like snatches
thanks
it.
For
it's like, thanks for bringing this up. We'll talk about this during battle brief. Yeah. And like walks away. And Violet's like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, I mean, I probably would have handed it over soon anyway. But you can hear there's a couple of things that Rhea is bringing up about delays in communication and stuff that are happening, that she is like putting things together that something's not right. Yeah. There's things they're not telling us, which is good because she needs to be sus right now. So they sit down at class and like Markham talks about, oh, so this has been coming out. Why would we be wary of all travelers? And people like it's part of their discussion now where they're like raising their hand and saying, oh, because they might be spies and all this stuff. And they come to the conclusion that yes, they can't be trusted. They can be spies or enemies, and you just don't know.
And he added that the Palmer citizens, the strangers coming in, like evacuating to their border cities, are coming in with false claims that they're under attack from dragons.
And he's like, we know we're not.
And Ree's even like dragons would do that.
Dragons wouldn't do that.
And what's Violet thinking? Instantly.
Wyvern would.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they're not lying, man. So it's one, they're trying to hide the propaganda. And two, yeah, fair, there might be spies that come in.
Yeah.
But probably not. Violet is so upset. She's like, if they're so close that people are fleeing, like civilians are just fleeing and leadership's not doing anything
to
about
enemy
it.
territory.
It's horrible. We're not doing anything about it. And so she just starts running and she's running and just upset. And she ends up in the archives and she doesn't even realize it. But that's her
not Saturday,
place.
Guys.
And it's not Saturday. And she actually opens the door where she usually meets Jacinia, and it's in the middle of a class that Jacinia just happens to be in. She's just like, oh shit, cover blown. The professor is sitting there like looking like, what the hell are you doing? And Jacinia just gets up and like says something and then comes out to her, and Violet's like, oh, what'd you say? I'm so sorry. And she's like, oh, I just said that you're a very egotistical and arrogant writer, and it's best just to deal with you so you go away.
Which is true.
And she's like, I didn't lie. But she's like, excuse me, it is not Saturday. And she's like, fair, I just needed to be faster. And she's like, what do you mean? And I need to read faster. That's all I can tell you. And so basically just saying, I need to find the solution before we all die.
And Jacinia's like, I forgot to ask you what happens if you don't find it. And she's like, a lot of people die.
Yeah.
Okay.
So still on Saturdays, I'll just start handing over more books at one time.
Yeah.
So now Xaden's back early. There are books laying out everywhere. And you know how much he thinks her mind is hot.
Stop prepping it this way.
That's not what's happening. They playfully like flirt back and forth. And she's like, oh, I don't need to hide all the books. He knows I love books. And most of these that are out are actually my history books that I've just kept over time from her room. She just was able to steal all the stuff from her old room because she lived a hop, skip, and a jump away a mere 2 years ago. So she has all her books. He actually is like, oh, are all of these yours? And comes to find out that she is on her own sneaky way of getting information from the scribe and the archives. And he's like, don't do that, please. And she's like, too bad. I'm going to.
Well, I mean, first she's like, I'm studying the first six and how they built the wards. And then he's like, Brennan told you we have a ward stone. Because that's not information he gave her.
Nope.
He's like, I'm going to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
And she's like, why wouldn't I research this? Why wouldn't I do these things?
Well, and it's another thing. It's like, you're mad at Brennan for giving me information that is I have access to and have the intellect to figure it out.
Yeah.
And this is information that you should be telling me.
Again, you're jumping rank. Just because you're girlfriend doesn't mean you get to jump rank, okay? Either way, she's like, I'm studying the first six for you. For Arisha. Like, I'm doing this for you. He says that it'll get her killed, and she's like, I'm going to keep doing it anyway.
Say lovey.
You think you're the only one that gets to protect people? Come on.
So she's got to go meet Jacinia, and instead of taking a nap like he should, she's like, fine, you can come with me, but don't scare her away, man. She's like, just don't scare her away. She can be trusted. Trust me. I'm a great judge of character.
Either way, Xaden's like, I just need to meet her.
Yep.
I'll know if she's trustworthy or not.
They actually run into Ree and Riddick and Sawyer, and they're like, oh, do you want to come to Shun whatever with us? Do you want to come to the party with us?
Do you want to come whatever?
Do you want to come to Shantara? Shantara?
Yes.
Shatara.
It's basically the bar.
Yeah.
Hang out.
And Xaden just like answers for her and is like, no, she's busy. And they're like, oh, kind of.
And then
rude.
they start fighting mind to mind, back and forth.
Like, don't be rude to my friends. I'm lying to them.
This whole scenario I picture on the TV show.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what are they doing? I think they're fighting. They're not saying anything. I know, but I'm pretty sure they're fighting.
Yeah, they're definitely fighting, man. And so they come to, I guess, a awkward pause, and she's like, I can't this weekend, but next weekend. And Xaden's like, not next weekend because you're going to be with me. And she's like, the weekend after next. And she's like, I'll come find you if I need to hide a burned body or something.
To bury a body.
To bury a body.
Yeah. And Ree's like, I'll be here. I've never buried anything as big as you, but I'm sure if I'm mad enough, I could put your ass in the ground.
Oh.
I love Ree.
That's awkward, but it's also her show of, man, I'm still your friend.
Yeah.
Like she always says, I don't need to know everything.
She's a good friend.
But tell me when you need me. Now I'm having a moment of enlightenment while we're taking this enlightenment.
Yeah.
Ree always says you don't have to tell me everything, but tell me when you need it. My help.
That's what she said to her last year. Yeah.
And she kind of said it right here too.
She continuously tells her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she needs to be like that with Xaden. She doesn't need everything. Okay. But she was allowed to be mad about it at first because that is.
I'm a little over it now.
That's a gray area where she frankly. There's debate on whether that was need to know information.
The daughter needs to understand rank. When it comes down to it, you're a second year in school and you're talking to a lieutenant. Someday, you're very powerful and we all think you're great.
Grandfathers are turning in their graves and I want people to break rank.
Also, how can you still be pissed about not knowing everything about the rebellion when General Melgreen, you don't have a relic? He can see what you're doing. Of course you can't be involved. Anyways. A focus.
No, it's the brother. It's the fact that there even is a rebellion. For her soul. Now Brennan, she feels like she doesn't know him.
Brennan should be more on Brennan, not Xaden.
Okay, fair. But you can understand she feels like she doesn't know him. She doesn't know the real him.
Get over it.
Okay, but there are so many women out there that as soon as something bad happens, they would look back and be like, there was a sign. Remember when they first got together? She didn't even know him.
Those are people who are not water signs and don't understand accurate, intuitive feeling.
How do you know when these guys were born and what sign Xaden and Violet are?
I'm just saying in general. I understand knowing and having good intuition and just kind of just knowing. Trust your feelings. trust your feelings.
No,
Some people
because
shouldn't. I get it,
some
but
people, if
have more
somebody
confidence in
hits
that.
you
I
in
don't
your
know.
face, even if you still feel love for that person, you need to walk away until they stop hitting people in faces.
It's very dramatic.
And if they say, sorry, I won't do it again, and they do it again,
You're
you don't
describing the
just.
plot of It Ends With Us.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, they go and they meet Jacinia, and she was right. She was very scared. And Xaden even like said, thank you for helping us. And so he like marks himself within it. I'm risking so you have proof that I'm part of it. It's kind of like mutually assured you can take me down.
Yeah.
So you can trust me.
Yeah. When Violet says the books she had were too vague, too recent, Jacinia comes back with two more and the folklore book that she asked to borrow.
Oh yeah, and Xaden's like, you shouldn't have given her
Zayden's
that
like,
book.
what
You
was that
gave
book?
her evidence.
Yeah. He's like, what was that book? And she's like, The Fables of the Barons. And he's like, you gave that to her? You would have implicated yourself. And she goes, and I can implicate her that she's not recording any of my requests. Trust goes both ways. So it's funny that you had the other realization because when she was saying the way she's handling her spy, her person she trusts, trust goes both ways. That's how I'm earning trust. You can do that too. Trust goes both ways, essentially, right? And they've always said they had nobody in the scribe unit because that's the enemy, but she knows all these people. So she's the person that can tell you who she trusts, and she's inched into it with Jacinia.
Well, and she studied so hard to be a scribe.
Yeah.
She thought that, like, she knows how scribes think.
The inner workings, all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they ran into Nolan, and he lost considerable weight.
Yeah.
And as he's going through, there's a couple of things that were really funny in this interaction. One is he actually pushes back on Xaden and is like, I've been healing her since way before you were in the picture, man.
Well, yeah, like because Xaden like pulls her like territory.
He's like, you don't need to protect her from me.
Yeah, and the girl I've been mending for the last 6 years.
And he's just like, oh, I'm exhausted. It takes a lot to heal a soul.
Yeah.
And I've been working on it for weeks now.
Months now. Yeah. He's not able to mend people. People have to wait for months.
Yeah.
And now there's a guard on that door. So Riddick, I think, thinks that they're interrogating somebody, like a Griffin rider or somebody, and then they have Nolan mend them to keep interrogating.
Torture. Oh gosh.
When I say interrogate,
it's torture.
It's torture. So there's a theory there, and Nolan doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so Bodhi has been figuring out different reasons to get them out of flying maneuvers so that Varish can't, like,
say Andarna didn't come.
Yes.
Delaying the future torture.
We have run out of those excuses. Okay, so it's been weeks at this point. Varish comes over when it's very obvious that Andarna isn't there and tells her she can't take off and charges Violet with dereliction of duty because our Andarnia didn't show up for maneuvers. Tairn is pissed.
Mm-hmm.
He growls behind and tells all the dragons that the smallest dragon does not answer to the most powerful human. And Varish says that Violet does report to him, though. And Tairn's like, does she? And launches for Solus. Grabs Solus around the neck. And they talk about the blood dripping down like he is not holding back.
Yes.
And he is like, say it. Varish finally is like, fine, she won't be punished. And Tairn's like, that's not good enough.
No.
Humans don't have the authority to summon dragons. He's like, apologize.
Yes.
He made Varish get on his knees and apologize to Violet.
Yeah.
And Violet at some point was like, no, he doesn't really need to. He's like, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
I need him to.
Yeah.
I need him to.
I need them to remember who they're dealing with.
I also thought it was interesting when she said that Tairn finally, you heard the like, it's like fangs coming out of Solus's neck. And Solus kind of like tried to, gruff a little bit and then flew away. But Varish, like, eagle eye on Violet. Like, that is not going to be the end of it.
No,
But
absolutely not.
Tarn said
And
Tarn said he was going to handle it.
oh, and he definitely did.
Yeah.
The funny, or not funny, but when he was like, even the most powerful human doesn't answer to the smallest of us dragons.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not even that person.
You're not even that person.
You're not even that person.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you can't even be in your position if you're not a rider.
Yeah.
And that's when he went after the dragon to just kind of show like, you're nothing without your dragon.
Right.
So let me take care of him.
Yeah.
It was so gnarly.
Also, all the other dragons took like a knee. Took like a dragon knee in support.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Varish. Varish. Fuck you, Varish. Violet's on her way to Samara again, and Rhee is walking her to the flight field this time. And Rhee's telling Violet that she doesn't think the death that goes on all the time is worth it. All the trials, parapet, gauntlet, everything else. And Violet's like, they are. They showed her that she could find another way. Like the gauntlet showed her, I can't do this that way, but I can find another way. I can still do it. When she sees classmates die, it prepares them for what's out there. And she couldn't understand. Rhee tells her.
Yeah, Rhee was like disgusted.
She's like, well, because they used to talk about this stuff, the year before. But Violet's basically like, you just don't understand. It prepares us for what's out there. You didn't see it. And she's like, well, of course I wouldn't understand. You don't talk to me. Liam was my friend too. And Violet's like, yeah, of course he was your friend. But she said like the anger kind of leaked from that box, that little compartmentalized box that she keeps it in. And she tells her that she wasn't the one holding him when he died. She didn't hear his dragon screaming in pain and crying. She doesn't see them both every time she closes her eyes to go to sleep. She said it was awful to watch Arlie fall from the gauntlet and Pryor burn and even Jack fucking Barlow, even him die. But it's what prepared her to leave Liam there and fight, because if she wouldn't have done that, everyone would be dead. Xaden would be dead, Imogen would be dead, all of them would be dead. And she used Xaden's, or I think, did Dane or Xaden say this to her? We are weapons, and this place is stone that they sharpen us with. She starts to apologize for snapping at Rhee, and she kind of starts to tell her a little bit more, and Tarn's like, no, Solace is righter.
Yeah.
And Varish comes walking up, has her empty her bag, and tells her to enjoy her leave while she has it. Asshole. Violet apologizes again, and Rhee kind of stops her and says, I'd rather you scream at me than pretend everything's fine.
Yeah.
And Violet just goes, everything is not fine.
She's Nothing like, thank you for finally telling me the truth.
Yeah. You don't have to tell me everything, but don't pretend like I'm dumb enough to think you're not struggling.
Going through yeah, we can help.
Exactly.
Okay. So off she goes. I love how actually it takes Tairn like 4 hours less time to fly.
Yeah.
Because he just flies faster. And so she was like the first couple times showing up earlier than expected.
Yeah. I also thought it was funny that they were both surprised by the other one being there. I didn't think you'd get here till noon. Both of you do the same thing. You leave at midnight and you fly through the night and show up early in the morning. Yeah. Literally every time.
And you've got some dragons who are missing their mates.
I mean,
they're in a hurry.
Listen.
Okay. Anyway, so she gets there and she starts walking, and all of a sudden, like, infantry start jogging by her, and she's like, oh shit, I'm in the middle, I'm in the way. And then it parts, and Xaden, beautiful Xaden, is standing there, and he's not standing, he's walking. He's walking towards her, and he's like, follow along if you want some private time tonight where we can talk. Otherwise, I can't help you. She's like, yeah, of course I want one-on-one time. And he's like, okay, kiss me hard. And
no, tell me to kiss you.
Tell me to kiss you. Because he said,
yes,
I'm not kissing you until you ask me
I'll
to.
kiss you whenever you want.
Yes. And so she's like, fine, I'll kiss you. And so they make out hard. And then in the back,
well, the
Mira,
whole description is like, the world has gone around us. Like, she evaporates. She folds into him.
Oh, she's like, I feel like I'm floating. And then I realized he picked me up. So I was floating. But Mira comes walking out and is like, ew.
She goes, oh, for fuck's sake.
That's gross. And so now it connects the dots that Mira was like, no, she's of course going to stay with me. And Zayn's like, no, we're
Yeah,
like
he's like,
together.
play along. You're going to be
We're
sleeping
in
in
a
her room.
relationship-ish.
Well, then he's like, I'll take your bags to the room.
And she's like,
I have duty. See
is
you
he
later.
really taking his bags up there? And she's like, yeah, he is, because we're banging.
They're not, though.
No, they're not. But she wants to.
Duh. I want to. I mean.
My goodness. Okay, that got weird. Okay, so anyway, Xaden's like, I gotta go. I'll see you later. Have fun with your sister. I'll
duty.
see you tonight.
Yeah.
Lass, give me a kiss on the cheek. No. Then her and Mira get to hang out until Mira has to actually go. She finds out that Mira is actually now stationed there. Mm-hmm. And so every other week, she actually not only gets to see Xaden, she gets to see her sister, which is delightful. And so she's sitting there and they're just like tossing knives and stuff like that. And first of all, Mira's like,
it's called
shit.
Throwing knives, Marissa. It's not called tossing knives.
They are tossing knives enthusiastically.
It's like Mario. Whee!
I mean, the cartoon version of this would be really good, but it would also have to be very fade to black, or else it would be weird.
We are obviously to the lit portion of this.
Okay, anyway.
They're throwing knives.
They're throwing knives. And Mira is like, ah, shit, you love him. And she's like, no, I don't-ish. And she's like, I told you can F around. Just don't fall in love with people, especially him. And she's like, you can't trust him. And she's like, yeah, I know I don't. And she's like, exactly. And she's like, okay. She's like, stop staring at him while he's walking away.
Yeah.
So basically, Big Sister is like, just go sleep with other people and don't have feelings with him. Secondly, Violet actually makes the connection that Mira's signet is around shields.
Yeah, she is a ward almost herself.
Yeah. And so it's like, why have I not asked her questions about this?
Maybe she knows.
Yeah. So she starts like trying to, while they're tossing knives. No. While they're throwing knives, she starts asking her like loaded questions around, oh, so like, why would you be over here? I would think that they'd want you at the edge. If you can help strengthen the shield, they'd want you at the border. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, that's not really how shields aren't like dominoes. And like was kind of, she's like skeptical, like, why are you asking this? And she's like, hello, I wanted to be a scribe. I love information.
I like to read. Well, because she's like, you don't learn that in your second year. What's going on?
She's like, I read
books. I did really like the way Mira described the wards, though.
Yeah.
Just to talk about that, because she's like, Basgiath, it's like an umbrella.
Yeah.
So everything is strongest at, it's what gave me the picture of the ward.
Yeah.
Everything is strongest at the base.
The base.
And then all the prongs go out. And obviously, those are the strongest towards the base, and they get weaker, and they're pulled out farther.
Yeah. So wherever they're pulled, it's really weak.
Right. And Samara has, like, the biggest armory, I think it is. Anyways, this is where I connected that's why they have all of the imbued, like, the armories of all these weapons at the outpost, because it, like, anchors the end of those umbrellas a little bit better to boost it.
So it's a...
She was actually a very good teacher. I was like, oh, that makes sense now. I didn't really get it until she said that.
As she was going through, she did the exact same thing as with Ree, where she definitely went further with Mira. Yeah. So Mira got to a point in this conversation with the probing and stuff where the first time she kind of stopped him a little bit was, you better keep throwing those knives or people will start listening harder. Yeah. Like, kind of like divert those questions. And so they start throwing the knives faster. The second time she actually put a shield around them and was like, dude, what are you talking about?
Tell me what's going on right now.
What's going on? Yeah. From like she saw dragons in the distance and she just assumed that's like reconnaissance or something like that.
Right.
And of course Violet was like, well, what if that wasn't dragons? And she's like, well, what else would it be? And she's like, should I tell her? Should I tell her? And she's like, how about I just allude?
Do it.
She's like, what if it was Wyvern? And
What if there's a whole
immediately,
war we
what
don't
if
even know about?
we don't even know about this whole new war?
Mhm.
And Mira looks at her like, okay, you need to sleep more. How much have you slept since the Griffin attack?
Yeah.
You're probably like having nightmares. And she's like, truthfully, I am having nightmares.
Right.
She's like, okay, you're just delusional. You go to sleep. I've got to go anyway in a couple hours. And so she like kind of said, put it out there,
Yeah.
hoping that she would grasp at it, and probably said something she shouldn't have said. But
I feel like
she dropped a little
Mira
acorn.
agreed. And I think that's a typical like older sister who's out there, out of school, knowing what's going on in her second year response. But I feel like when Mira thinks about it, she's going to know
Start
that
connecting
Violet's
dots.
really smart, that she knows stuff. She was testing. She's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I was a little disappointed because it's really wearing on Violet to keep these secrets from everybody and have nobody to talk to about it. Violet goes back to Xaden's room, falls asleep. Xaden comes crawling in from duty like around midnight, and she tells him that she almost told Mira today.
Yeah.
And apologizes for not telling him about the research. Like she's kind of understanding.
She's like, I did do that maliciously.
Yes.
I didn't want or need to keep that a secret from you. I did it because you kept secrets from me.
Right.
So I wanted to keep
and
secrets.
he knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew that and understood.
And she's like, I don't want to fight tonight.
She starts asking him questions and he actually answers them. And they go yin for yang. And I think she starts to see what he's meaning by this relationship. Like, I will still answer your questions. Talk to me. That's the point. She's still like caught up in being mad. But she gets to see like it's a yin. It is a yin and a yang. She tells him things. He tells her things.
Yeah.
Xaden tells her to go to sleep. And he goes, and you love me. And she goes, what, are you trying to rub it in? I thought we said we weren't fighting tonight. And he's like, maybe I was reminding myself that she loves me. I thought that was really sweet.
And that's where we end this section. And can I, noting that I have not read the whole book even.
Yeah.
I am hoping that this becomes a little rebellion group where every 2 weeks she's traveling back to, and her sister connects the dots. And since she has shield wielding power, I thought, oh, then Mira might be a luminary.
No, they're not people. That's a whole nother book that we should write.
The what if?
What
if Mira was a luminary?
So I'll just tell you. That's what I was struggling with when you said that because of things that are going to happen. I know it's not a person. So
you were trying to make sure it was no spoilers.
Kind of.
Oh, good job.
I just spoiled it. Because
Well,
you had a whole
okay.
theory.
It's okay.
But then you told me your theory, and I'm like, yeah, no.
No, that's not a good
it.
theory. No, good. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot.
You're welcome. Now, what
Okay.
I will say, I have read the whole book, okay? Rebecca Yarros said in an interview when someone asked, what's Violet's second signet? Because Andarna is now getting older, right?
Oh, and she said, I lost the power. And in that interaction, she actually, like, Andarna was like, are you mad at me for we don't have that power anymore? And Violet was coming to it like...
See, I read that scene as Andarna was looking at her, challenging her like a teenager to show any disapproval that she doesn't have that like, baiting her.
I read it as her being like, oh, shoot, we don't have that power. Like, I'm
Either
sorry.
Way, they already knew. Violet said, too. Right.
Yeah.
We already knew that wasn't going to last. That was a Feathertail thing, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, someone asked Rebecca Yarros in an interview, what in Onyx Storm do we find out what Violet's second signet is?
Oh.
And she goes, you already know. So, as we read the rest of this book, be thinking of that and trying to pick up Easter eggs. Because at the last episode, I want to talk about what we think it is. We already know. So that's spoiling that they don't actually show it in Iron Flame, but Rebecca Yarros says we see it in this book.
Ooh.
Now, with that being said, this was a very boring part of the book. Okay. In the next one and in the final episode, there are at least 2 events that as soon as you read it, you are going to text me, what the fuck?
Ooh.
And I want to document right now that I know exactly what the two of them are. You guys are going to have to trust me, but for sure, huge like pivots. And you're going to be like,
Okay.
are you fucking kidding me?
Okay. Do you want to say it real quick and I plug my ears?
No.
So we document it right here, right now.
No, because then what if people are reading with us?
Oh, fair.
They're not, but it's okay. Just know I'm not a liar. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a liar. So
She ain't no liar.
next episode, I'll be able to tell you one of them. I'm pretty sure. I don't think both of them happened in the last. I'll have to relook. I have a question for you. Favorite character this book? Like that's different. Your opinion maybe has shifted because we've gotten to know a lot of people a little bit more.
So not
Secondary
a main character.
Secondary character. Not Xaden or Violet.
I'd say Imogen.
Yeah, I'm like an Imogen too. I would say she's mine as well. I like their yin and yang back and forth.
How she just tells it to her like it is. Like, dude, I'm not your friend. Don't come to me with this kind of stuff.
But she's also like extremely loyal.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that the solidifying of the core four too, even though like Violet's distancing herself.
Yeah.
Like you're getting to see that it's not just like this joke, like they are down for each other.
They are.
Not quite yet. Anyways. All right. Well, thank you for talking the first part of Iron Flame with us.
Yes.
What do I always say?
Please follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Bye.
Bye.